What would you do if one mistake cost you your freedom? In 1970, a young American named Billy Hayes made a reckless choice, trying to smuggle drugs out of Turkey. Within moments, his adventure turned into a nightmare. Arrested at the airport, thrown into a brutal Turkish prison, and surrounded by violence, fear, and despair, Billy's life became a fight for survival. His 4-year sentence suddenly turned into life, stealing every hope he once had. But Billy refused to surrender to fate. For 5 long years, he studied, waited, and dreamed of escape. And then, in 1975, he did the impossible. He broke out of one of the most feared prisons in the world. This is a true story of Billy Hayes, the man who risked everything for freedom. Imagine being young, free, and full of dreams, only to make one mistake that changes your life forever. In 1970, a 23-year-old American named Billy Hayes was caught smuggling hashish in Turkey. What followed was not just prison. It was a nightmare of beatings, fear, and hopelessness. Trapped in a brutal Turkish jail, surrounded by violence and corruption, Billy's world turned into a living hell. His 4-year sentence was suddenly turned into life, crushing every hope of freedom. But deep inside, Billy refused to give up. He waited, he planned, and he risked everything. In 1975, against all odds, he made a daring escape that shocked the world. This is not just a story about crime and punishment. It's about courage, survival, and a desperate fight for freedom. Billy Hayes was a young man from New York with a love for travel and adventure. In 1970, he visited Turkey, a country filled with history, beauty, and mystery. Like many young travelers of that time, Billy was curious about exploring new cultures and ways of life. Unfortunately, his adventurous spirit also led him into risky decisions. During one of his trips, Billy tried to smuggle hashish, a type of drug, out of Turkey. He thought it would be easy and harmless, but he underestimated the country's strict laws. Turkish authorities were very tough on drug-related crimes. The day he was caught at Istanbul airport changed the entire course of his life. What began as a simple plan soon turned into a nightmare beyond his imagination. When the police discovered the drugs taped to Billy's body, his world collapsed instantly. He was only 23 years old, but he faced the terrifying reality of Turkish justice. The airport police interrogated him harshly, treating him as a dangerous criminal. He was thrown into a dark, crowded cell where the smell of fear and hopelessness was everywhere. Billy felt panic and regret wash over him, realizing the seriousness of his mistake. In the United States, such an act might have brought a short jail term, but in Turkey it was a crime with heavy punishment. The trial was confusing, full of foreign language and unfamiliar laws. He didn't know what to expect, and the feeling of helplessness grew stronger each day. Billy was transferred to a Turkish prison, where life was nothing like he had ever known. The prison was overcrowded, dirty, and filled with hardened criminals. Food was scarce, violence was common, and corruption ruled everything. Guards could be cruel, and bribes were often the only way to survive. As a foreigner, Billy stood out and became an easy target for abuse and humiliation. He had to learn quickly how to defend himself and whom to trust. Days turned into months, and survival became his only focus. Letters from home were rare, and the distance from his family made his suffering even heavier. He realized that prison was not just about punishment. It was a slow destruction of the human spirit. In the beginning, Billy received a sentence of 4 years and 2 months. Although it was harsh, he felt that he could endure it and return home someday. However, just before his release date, the worst news came. The Turkish authorities overturned his sentence and changed it to life imprisonment. They wanted to make an example out of him, showing the world that drug smuggling would never be tolerated. For Billy, this decision was like a death sentence. His hopes were crushed, and the thought of spending the rest of his life behind bars nearly broke him. Depression, anger, and despair consumed him. Still, somewhere deep inside, a spark of determination remained alive. He began thinking of escape. The idea of escaping from such a brutal prison seemed impossible. The walls were high, guards were everywhere, and punishment for failed attempts was severe. But Billy refused to accept a lifetime of suffering. He studied the routines of the guards, the layout of the prison, and possible weak spots. Patience became his best weapon. He knew one mistake could cost his life. His mind was filled with fear, but also with courage. He secretly built plans and looked for any chance to break free. The thought of freedom kept him alive during the darkest nights. For years, he carried the secret dream, waiting for the right moment. While planning his escape, Billy had survived the horrors of daily prison life. He saw inmates lose their sanity, some beaten to death, and others simply giving up on life. Violence between prisoners was common, and the guards often turned a blind eye. Trust was dangerous. One wrong friendship could lead to betrayal. Billy himself faced beatings and cruel treatment, but he refused to let them break him completely. He trained his body, sharpened his instincts, and learned how to stay alert. Each passing day reminded him that time was running out. He knew he couldn't wait forever. If he didn't act soon, prison life would destroy him. Finally, in 1975, Billy made his daring move. He disguised himself, taking advantage of a weak point in the prison system. Slipping past guards and hiding his fear, he pushed forward into the unknown. Every step outside the prison walls felt like a victory, but also a risk. The Turkish countryside was dangerous for a fugitive. One wrong turn could mean capture. He crossed rivers, hid in villages, and moved mostly at night. The fear of being caught again haunted him, but his willpower kept him moving. After an exhausting journey, Billy finally made it out of Turkey. Against all odds, he had escaped. Reaching safety felt unreal to Billy. He had been caged for years, and now he was suddenly free. But freedom came with its own challenges. He had to hide, move carefully, and eventually find a way back to the United States. The journey home was long and full of danger, but he finally succeeded. When he landed back in America, he felt like he had been reborn. The air, the streets, and even simple things like food and clothing felt precious. Yet, he also carried scars, emotional, mental, and physical. His story was one of survival, but also one of deep pain and lessons learned. Billy Hayes' escape became famous when he shared his story with the world. In 1977, he published his book Midnight Express, detailing his horrific experiences in Turkey. A year later, the book was turned into a Hollywood movie. The film shocked audiences with its raw portrayal of prison brutality, though some scenes were exaggerated. Many people were horrified by what they saw, and Turkey faced international criticism. Billy became both a symbol of survival and a controversial figure. Some praised his courage, while others criticized his crime and the risks he had taken. Still, his story remained unforgettable. The story of Billy Hayes is more than just an escape tale. It is a powerful warning. It shows how one bad decision can destroy years of a person's life. The story of Billy Hayes is more than just an escape tale. It is a powerful warning. It shows how one bad decision can destroy years of a person's life. Billy was young and reckless when he made his mistake, but he paid for it with unimaginable suffering. His escape was miraculous, but not everyone in his position would have been so lucky. Today, his story reminds people of the importance of choices, freedom, and resilience. It is a tale of pain, courage, and survival against the odds. Billy Hayes will forever be remembered as a young American who dared to escape a brutal Turkish prison and lived to tell the world his story. On October 2nd, 1975, an American prisoner escaped from a prison built on an island in Turkey. There was only sea all around. No wall, no wire, and no way to escape. Still he escaped. He was sentenced to 4 years. But before his release, he was sentenced to 30 years in the same case. And from here began the biggest journey of freedom. What was that unique way of smuggling that landed him in jail? What happened to him in jail? What was his escape plan that seemed impossible? We will know in today's true crime story. So let's start today's true crime story. But before starting, if you like our true crime series and like the video, do give your feedback in a comment, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Only with your support can we bring better cases to you. Billy Hayes' story begins from his youth. When he was a teenager, he smoked hash for the first time. In the very first puff, he felt as if a new world had opened up in front of him. Gradually, this became his habit. The year was 1967. Billy was now 20 years old. His closest friend was Patrick. Patrick was a writer, a boy who lived in dreams. Both of them had similar thinking. Both of them liked to travel, liked to be free, and liked to see life in their own way. That very year, Billy decided to leave college. He was getting bored with studies. He said that now he wanted to live a real life. He wanted to learn from the streets and not from books. He said goodbye to the university. Now, he needed money. He took up the job of an assistant in a local hospital. The salary was modest. The work was also small. One day, he was passing through a ward of the hospital. There, a patient's leg was broken. The doctor was applying plaster on his leg. At that time, fractures were treated in a special way. Plaster powder was added to the bandage. It was soaked in water. Then, layer by layer was applied on the patient's leg. In a few minutes, the bandage would harden and hold the bone firmly. Billy stopped after seeing all this. Something clicked in his mind. He thought, this is easy. I can do this too. That idea of plaster and cast settled in his mind. Soon after, one of Billy's friends returned from Turkey. He was in Istanbul, and while returning, he brought some small pieces of hashish with him. Billy and his friends were already used to smoking hashish. But as soon as Billy took the first puff of this Turkish hashish, he was shocked. This is many times better than the hashish of America. He said. He asked his friend, "Where did you get this from?" The friend laughed. He said, "It is openly available in Istanbul, Turkey. They sell on the road. Anyone can buy it. There is no restriction." He told how he bought hash, kept in a bag, and comfortably caught the flight, and returned to America, as if he had caught a local bus. In those days, the security of the plane was not as strict as it is today. There was no checking, no scanners. People could easily carry anything, even weapons. Then it was very easy to carry something like hash. Two things got connected in the mind of the cat. First, it is very easy to bring high-quality hash from Turkey, and second, if it is hidden inside a plaster cast, no one will suspect. This is where the plan of Billy Hayes started, which was going to take him straight to the most dangerous prison of Turkey. Billy later says that I was not doing all this for money. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted an adventure. After leaving college, he was looking for a new path, and now he could see that path clearly. It was the year 1969. Billy was now 22 years old. For the first time, he took a big step in his life. He left for Istanbul, city of Turkey. As soon as he stepped on Istanbul airport, the first thing he saw was the taxi drivers. He went straight to a young driver and said that he wanted to go to Sultan Ahmed. Sultan Ahmed was a famous tourist area. But the driver immediately understood from the words and style of the cat what he was actually looking for. The driver smiled and said hash. In Turkey, such drivers quickly understand what a tourist wants. The cat directly replied, "Yes, hashish." The driver said, "Come with me." The cat sat in that taxi. But he was not taken to any shop or market. The driver took him to his house. The atmosphere of the house was very different. The cat was given tea. He was fed a sweet called Turkish delight. He met the children of the driver. He talked to his wife as if he was a guest. After a while, the driver came out from inside, and he had the same thing in his hand that the cat was looking for. The cat took a puff, and at that very moment he was convinced. This is the thing for which I have come here. That hash was many times better than any hashish in America. The driver asked, "How much do you want?" The cat, without hesitation, said, "If I get 1 or 2 kilograms, then the driver will give it to me." He thought for a while and then said, "Okay." He left and returned after a while with 2 kilograms of hash. It would cost $300. He said that this was not a small amount in 1969. If seen in today's time, it would be around $1,500, but for that quality, this deal was very cheap. Billy happily paid the money, and he reached his hotel with 2 kilograms of hash. Now it was time to actually execute that plan. He spread all the things he had brought, plaster bandage, tape and water, properly in the hotel. Now it was time for the most delicate and dangerous part, to hide the hash by tying it to his leg. First of all, Billy put the packets of hashtag H on his leg and started sticking them tightly with tape. He pulled the tape from every corner and stuck it in such a way that it did not move. After this came the next step, applying plaster cast. Billy dipped the bandages in water and started wrapping them around his leg. Each layer was applied carefully so that the hash inside was completely buried, and there was no doubt. In a short while, the plaster started drying and then became completely hard. Now, Billy had a real cast on his leg, but inside it was hidden 2 kilograms of illegal stuff. That night, he stayed in the hotel itself. He must have hardly slept. The next day, he got up and checked his cast and saw that everything was as he had planned. Strong, fit, and looking absolutely real. Now it was time to return. Billy left the hotel, took a taxi, and headed toward the airport. There was a little nervousness on his face, but the slight limp in his walk, which was not real but was compulsion due to the plaster, was looking real to him, and this was what was making his role more believable. He gave his passport at the airport. He was nervous from inside, but was trying to look confident from outside, when an officer who went for bag checking did a light search. He opened the bag, looked at it, and then closed it. "You are good to go." Billy himself could not believe it. He got out so easily. He boarded the plane, and a few hours later his plane landed at JFK Airport in New York. Now, he was in America, but all the fear was not over yet. He knew that if he was caught now, the punishment would be very severe. He picked up his bag and headed towards the customs. Now, only one last checkpoint was left, and after that freedom, Billy was slowly moving towards the exit gate of the airport. Till now, everything was going according to plan. He started feeling that just a few more steps, and he would be completely free. But then an unseen danger started following him. While walking, Billy felt that something was falling under his feet. He looked down and saw that small pieces of plaster cast were falling on the ground. As he was walking, the layers of his fake plaster were breaking. With every step, a white line was being left behind, a trail that could alert any security guard. The reason for this was that the packets of hash he had stuck inside the cast had distorted the shape of the leg. Because of this, the plaster strips could not join together completely, and now it was slowly breaking. This moment was the most frightening for Billy. Sweat was dripping from his forehead. He was looking everywhere. I hope no one noticed him. He tried to walk fast, but walking fast would make the plaster break even faster. Now he could neither walk fast nor slow. He just had to get out of the airport somehow. But luck was with him that day. No one saw anything. No guard stopped. No questions, no search. Billy got out of the airport. Now he was in America, and he had a full 2 kilograms of Turkish hash. He felt as if he had become the smartest person in the world. He made a plan, executed it, and completed everything without any hindrance. Now it was the turn to sell that stuff. First, he started selling #SH to his friends. Then friends of friends started coming. Everyone liked that thing. It was of pure quality, and demand was high. Billy had a line of buyers. And in a few days, all the goods were sold. The profit was crazy. He bought 2 kilograms for just $300 and sold it for $5,000. In today's terms, this was an earning of about 25 to 30 lakhs. That too in just a few days. Now Billy's mind had started working like a businessman, but his biggest problem was that he was not able to handle money. As soon as the money came, it flew away. Parties, trips, shock, everything ended in a few months. Then he told his friends, "Okay, now it's time for another trip." In October 1969, Billy planned to go to Turkey again. He booked a ticket, caught a plane, and reached Istanbul. As soon as he landed, he went straight to the same taxi driver who had helped him earlier. Both of them hugged each other, drank tea, asked about each other's well-being, and then straight to the point. Billy bought 2 kilograms of hash again. Same quality, same contact. For a while he thought of buying more quantity, but he knew that more the goods, more the risk. This time he decided to play safe. The first time he hid the hash inside the plaster cast on his leg. But that method was very delicate and messy. He narrowly escaped the plaster from breaking. This time he thought of a new trick. Billy tied the packets of #SH tightly with tape around his chest and tree. Then he wore a loose and long winter coat over it. Billy was thin, so even when the hash was stuck to his body, he looked absolutely normal from outside. No protruding part, no reason for suspicion. There was a little fear, but that fear had now turned into thrill. Billy reached the airport. Bags were checked. A light search was done, and then all clear. No one checked his clothes or body. Airport security in those days was just a name. No scanner, no body check, no x-ray. Billy took a sigh of relief and caught the flight back to New York. The plane landed. Billy went through customs and no one said anything. His plan worked perfectly the second time, too. He started selling hash again. But this time he increased the price even more. The goods were high quality and the demand was very high. In a few days, Billy had again earned thousands of dollars. Billy started feeling that he had created a system through which he could earn money whenever he wanted. He would bring hash from Turkey, sell it in New York, and whenever the money ran out, he would go back. Everything was going so smoothly that it had now become a habit of his life. 6 months passed comfortably, when the money started running out again. In April 1970, Billy took a flight to Turkey for the 4th time. This time, too, he adopted the same method. Bought 2 kilograms hash, stuck it on the body with tape, wore loose clothes, and returned to New York. Now, all this had become a routine for him. Such a work that neither scared nor stopped, as if nothing could go wrong. But something else was brewing in the world at that time. In September 1970, everything in the Middle East went haywire. Violence broke out between Jordan and Palestine. Several terrorist groups hijacked planes. The passengers were taken off, and the planes were flown into the desert. No one died in those planes, but it shook the whole world. This entire time period was later called Black September, and because of this, aviation security started changing completely. Now the search at airports had become more stringent. Checking was stricter than before. The guards were more alert. The cat had also got a hint of this change. He knew that now it would not be as easy as before. Turkey was not directly involved in these incidents, but it was a part of the Middle East, and the effect of that tension was being felt everywhere. But now Billy did not think like he used to. Now he had a strange pride. The plan had worked 3 times, and now he started feeling that everything would be fine the 4th time, too. He had started to feel that he had it all under control. This overconfidence was slowly going to become his biggest mistake. Still, he followed the same old pattern. Met his taxi driver friend, went to his house, bought 2 kilograms hash, tied it on his body with tape, and left for the airport wearing loose clothes. Billy was a little more cautious this time. Before entering the airport, he stood in a corner and started watching every passenger carefully. Who was going through the security and what? Who was being checked? Was the body being searched or not? He was noting everything. After watching for a while, he felt that the guards were just doing a light checking the bags. No one was being touched. Seeing this, his breathing became a little lighter. He started to feel that maybe everything would be fine the 4th time as well. Billy reached the customs counter, gave the passport, moved the bag forward. The officer stamped the passport, looked at the bag for a little while, and signaled with his hand. "You can go." Billy also moved forward just as the other passengers were being let go. Now there was a light smile on his face. He thought everything was the same as before. But the real game was about to begin now. After security check, the passengers were put on a bus to take them to the boarding gate. The cat found this strange because last time he had gone directly to the plane through the passenger bridge that connects the terminal to the plane. Maybe the flight is at some faraway gate. He told himself that he did not pay much attention. An old lady came and sat next to him in the bus. She started talking about her son, about her journey, how she reached here in life. Billy kept smiling, kept nodding his head, but his attention was completely somewhere else. The bus was slowly approaching the plane, and then the cat looked outside. What he saw made him numb. A large number of soldiers and officers were standing near the plane, and this was no ordinary security team. It was clear from their gestures that now every passenger would be thoroughly searched, from head to toe. Immediately, everything started connecting in Billy's mind. The effect of the recent plane hijackings in the Middle East had now reached Turkey. Now no risk was being taken. No weapons, no bombs, no illegal things in the plane. Nothing was to be allowed inside. Billy was now in that bus. 2 kilograms of hash was tied to his body, and strong security officers were standing in front of him with full preparation. Every passenger was being taken down one by one. Everyone's clothes, shoes, pockets, everything was being searched. No one was going ahead without checking. Billy's lips had dried up. His palms were drenched in sweat. His heart was beating so fast that it was becoming difficult to control himself. He knew that now if even one officer's hand fell on his chest or stomach, everything would be over. That scene was exactly like what the cat had never imagined. In fact, it was even worse. If the security check was at the airport gate, he would have seen it from a distance. He would have escaped by making some excuse. But now he was in the bus with the other passengers and had reached the door of the plane. Now there was no way to retreat. Whatever was to happen had to happen here, and now. The bus slowly stopped. One by one the passengers started getting down, and everyone was thoroughly searched. Bags, bodies, clothes, nothing was being spared. The cat became completely rooted to his seat. His mind was working very fast. What to do? How to save himself? Only one way came to his mind. Hide in the bus. He immediately started a drama. As if his passport had fallen, he started bending under the seats, started looking here and there, as if he was searching for something. By now, most of the passengers in the bus had got down. Outside, the officers were strictly checking each passenger. Billy kept bending down. He kept trying to keep his breath slow. But then the woman who was talking to him earlier in the bus bent down and asked, "What are you looking for?" Billy replied without thinking, "My passport must have fallen here." The woman pointed toward his pocket and said, "Your passport is in your pocket." Billy saw that the passport was indeed peeking out of his jacket pocket. He said with a tired smile, "Oh, thank you." He had helped, but unknowingly ruined Billy's entire plan. Now the situation had become even worse. A policeman standing outside the bus was shouting loudly, "Come on, get out quickly." Now Billy had no choice. He could not hide under the seat for long. He had to get up. He had to get off the bus. His breathing was fast. His face was dry. There was only one thought running inside. If they check me, then everything will be over. He moved towards a line. He saw in front that there were two queues, one on the right and one on the left. Every person was being stopped one by one. First their bags were checked, then their clothes, and then their whole body was searched. One by one people were moving forward. And now the cat's turn was not far away. He looked around, tried to read everything. As if he himself was caught in a chess game. No way was visible clearly. But he had one last hope, to escape by cheating somehow. He thought in his mind, "Can I show that I have been searched? Can I go straight to the plane? As if everything is clear." He himself was not sure that this method would work. But now he had no other option. Slowly, without attracting anyone's attention, he moved forward. He took every step, thoughtfully. He caught the moment when the security guards were busy checking some other passenger. And one by one the cat crossed the first security line. He opened his bag to show, put his hand in it, took out something and then put it back, as if he too had gone through the checking. Then he headed straight towards the stairs of the plane. Now there were security guards behind him and in front of him just a plane. He thought he was saved. He was about to take the first step on the stairs of the plane. Just then a hand came and rested on his shoulder. A security officer stopped him from behind. He said in broken English, "Where are you going?" The cat's face turned completely pale. Hiding his nervousness, he pointed toward an officer standing in front of him and said, "The officer already searched me." Now the guard stared at the cat from top to bottom, and then asked the officer towards whom the cat had pointed, "Did you search this guy?" The other officer said without thinking much, "No, I did not search him." On hearing this, the ground slipped under the cat's feet. "No, I did not search him." These words exploded in his ears like a bomb. The hand on his shoulder tightened even more. The officer's full suspicion had now come directly on the cat. He said, "Raise your hands." The cat's hands slowly rose up. It was clearly visible from his face that he was broken from inside. Only one thing was going on in his mind. Now everything is going to end. The officer started searching him, from head to bottom. As soon as his hand reached the cat's chest and the tree where the hash packets were stuck, for a moment it felt as if the hands may have hit some strange surface. But the officer did not say anything at that time. He kept searching till the bottom. It was as if the cat had stopped breathing. Then for a moment, he felt a little relieved. He thought that maybe my loose jacket saved me. The packets were stuck, so well that I could not see them from outside. But then the officer started searching upwards again. As soon as his hand reached near the chest again, he suddenly stopped. He looked straight into the cat's eyes. Then he took a quick step back. He took out his gun and shouted, "Bomba, bomba." Hearing this, there was chaos in the entire airport. Officers everywhere took out their guns, and everyone was now aiming at the cat's chest. The cat stood there like a stone. Hands were in the air, eyes wide open. There was only one fear in his mind. What if he shoots me right here? He did not move himself at all. No excuse, no shout. Every plan, every trick, every lie was over now. An officer slowly came near him. He lifted the cat's jacket and looked inside. There was no bomb. There were just some thin packets of hash wrapped in plastic. The officer looked around. He looked at his colleagues and said, "Hashish, hashish." All the weapons were put down. The officers breathed a sigh of relief. But there was no relief left for the cat. His real story was just beginning. At that very moment, he felt it in his heart. Now my life will never be the same as before. The airport security handed him over to the Turkish police, and from there, he was taken directly to a notorious prison in Istanbul named Basrapajan. As soon as he reached there, the first thing that happened was his head was completely shaved. No questions, no explanation, no talk. Just a machine, and the whole head was shaved. After that, he was taken to a ward of the jail. This jail was not like any other ordinary jail. There were many cells in every ward here. But no guard came inside. Instead of guards, some prisoners here were given the power to handle the entire ward. They were called responsible. Inmates. One of them took the cat to his cell. He had a big bunch of keys. He was opening and closing the door as if he was a guard himself. Imagine one prisoner had the keys of all the other prisoners. The cat's cell was very cold. Very cold. It was the month of October, but there was no heater, no blanket, no other thing to provide warmth. There was only an iron frame and the name of bed. No mattress, no sheet. The walls were stone. The floor was cold. Everything felt like ice when touched. The cat asked that responsible inmate, "Can I have a blanket?" He replied without showing any interest, No, there is nothing. Go and sleep." Now another difficulty arose, language. Most people in Turkey did not speak English, and even if they did, it was broken, which made it almost impossible to communicate properly. But the cat noticed a strange thing. When that prisoner came to close the cell door, he did not lock it. He had the keys, but perhaps he was tired, or did not feel like searching for the right key among so many locks. Whatever the reason, the door was closed but not locked. As soon as the guard and the prisoner left, the cat heard a faint sound from the cell next to it. The cat looked towards the door. Slowly he went closer and tried to listen, but the words were not clear. When he saw that there was no guard outside, he slowly opened the door of his cell and tiptoed to the prisoner who was calling him. As soon as the cat reached him, the prisoner extended a long wooden stick towards him. There was an iron hook on one end of that stick. The prisoner whispered, "Take it, take it." For a while, Billy could not understand what was happening. Why was this man giving him this strange thing? What is it supposed to do? But slowly, he started understanding things a little. The prisoner had indicated that there was a cell at the end of the hallway where some blankets were kept, and this stick was to reach them. The language barrier was still there, but the need had sharpened the understanding. The cat was in dire need of a blanket. He was unable to bear the cold. So, without thinking much, he took the stick and headed towards the hallway. The entire prison was in darkness. Nothing was visible clearly. Cold wind was blowing from the right, and there was only darkness ahead. He slowly reached the last cell. The door was closed. The cat extended the stick inside the bars. He started pulling the blankets from the hook. In a short while, he brought out 2 blankets. While returning, he handed over one blanket to the neighboring prisoner. He took the other one with him and came to his cell. As soon as he reached inside, he covered himself with the blanket without any delay and fell on that cold bare iron bed. The fatigue was so deep that as soon as he closed his eyes, he fell asleep. But that relief did not last long. The same responsible inmate in the ward, who was given the responsibility by the guards to keep an eye on everyone, was patrolling in the hallway. Perhaps he liked to pretend to be a guard. As soon as he reached near the cat's cell and saw that Billy was sleeping covered with a blanket, his anger reached the seventh sky. He entered his cell muttering and shouted loudly. The cat sat up in a jolt. His eyes were dazzled. He could not understand what was happening. When he opened his eyes fully, the same man was standing in front of him who was a self-proclaimed guard of this ward. He was staring at the cat for that blanket, as if the cat had stolen something from him. Without saying anything, he pounced on the cat and started pulling the blanket. Billy got scared, but this time he did not give in. He held the blanket tightly and did not let it move back. Now a fierce tug of war had started between the two. Anger started boiling in the cat's mind. What nonsense is this? There is only one blanket, and that too no one was using. Finally he lost his patience. He also punched the prisoner in one go, right on his face. The prisoner got agitated. He started screaming, but Billy could not understand what he was saying in Turkish. His body was trembling as if something terrible was about to happen. The man ran away and returned in a few minutes. This time, the guards came with 2 prison guards and caught Billy. They did not listen to anything. They did not ask any questions. They dragged him out of the ward. Billy was scared. He did not know what was going to happen next. He was taken to the dark part of the prison, down toward some basement, a narrow, cold, and suffocating place. Where he was brought, a thick rope was hanging from the wall. There was a pulley in that rope. The guards threw him on the ground. Then they tied his legs tightly and started pulling the rope. In a few seconds, Billy was hanging upside down, head down, feet up. At that very moment, he understood this is not an ordinary place. This is a place for punishment. This was the punishment room. After some time, a third guard came there, a heavy body, a stern face, and a strange coldness in his eyes. Later, the cat came to know that his name was Hamid. He was the head guard of this prison, and in his hand was a thick baton, a heavy wooden stick. Hamid did not ask any questions. He did not give any warning. He just started hitting the cat's legs. The cat's scream started echoing in the walls of that dark room. Please, no please, he kept screaming and pleading, but it did not affect Hamid. He kept hitting continuously, without a moment's pause. The cat did not understand how long he was being beaten. It was as if time had stopped. When finally the guards released him and brought him back to the cell, he could not even walk on his feet. He was dragged inside. For the next several days, he could not even stand properly. The cat was only 23 years old and had never seen a jail before in his life. Now, he was in a world where there was no humanity, no forgiveness. There was only punishment and fear. To survive in that prison, he had to learn a lot quickly. He had to understand when to remain silent, when to speak, when to bow down, and when to control himself. But the biggest problem was language. He was in a country where people did not understand his language. The little communication he could do in broken words only created more confusion. He was all alone in a strange country, among strange people, and now he was going to face a case whose outcome he could not even imagine. After a few days, the prison administration told him that his trial was going to start now. He got a chance to contact someone outside. But in 1970, the situation was not like today. Making international calls was not possible for a common man. The cat had only one way: to write a letter to his family. He slowly wrote a letter to his family, his father, but the words were not coming out. He himself was not able to understand how to tell what he has done and what trouble he is in now. He knew that this news will break his parents' hearts. Shame, regret, and fear all together had become a burden inside him, but there was no other way. He sent the letter and then just waited. A few days later, his father reached Istanbul from America. He was angry, but his heart still beat for his son. He came straight to the jail to meet Billy and had brought along the American consul officer. When Billy saw his father, he hugged him, but deep inside, he was wishing that he would disappear at that moment. He was so ashamed that he was not even able to look into their eyes. Father, son, and counsel all three sat together. Billy slowly told everything. how he came to Turkey, bought hash, how he was caught, and what punishment could be given now. A few days later, the court announced its verdict, a sentence of 4 years and 2 months. This verdict was as harsh as it was a defense. Actually, according to Turkish laws, this punishment was considered light because Billy was not convicted of drug trafficking. His father hired a lawyer who explained to court that the quantity Billy had was so small that it could not be considered smuggling. So he was only convicted of drug possession and not smuggling. If he had been accused of being a trafficker, the punishment could have been many times longer. So a sentence of 4 years and 2 months was a good deal according to the circumstances. But do not forget that Billy was only 23 years old. Spending 4 years in jail meant the most precious part of his youth behind bars. Now he had only 2 options: accept the punishment and spend it somehow in jail, or find a way to escape. Language was still his biggest obstacle. But with time, he started learning Turkish. One word from here, one from there. Slowly, he became able to talk to the other prisoners. Now his focus was not just on staying alive, but on thinking about freedom. The other prisoners in the jail often discussed plans to escape. Which route could be taken? Where could we go? How could we avoid getting caught? All these things were discussed day and night. Some prisoners even had maps of Istanbul, and they repeatedly discussed a special train route that connected Istanbul to Greece. They believed that there was a turn in this train from where, if someone jumped at the right time, he could leave the Turkish border and enter Greece directly. They all used to say that once you reach there, then freedom is yours. But all these were just talks. In reality, it was not so easy to do this and get out of that jail, because this was not an ordinary jail. Murderers, rapists, and the most dangerous smugglers were imprisoned here. Therefore, the security was also very strict. But the environment inside the jail was much more dangerous than the strictness in the walls and security of the jail. Every day there was an argument between the prisoners on some issue or the other, and the matter often reached to a scuffle or a fight. Every week a new conflict was seen. Sometimes there was abuse, sometimes slapping, and sometimes outright bloodshed. Some prisoners also had weapons made secretly, such as knives which were either hidden inside clothes or were secretly prepared from broken things. When enmity with someone increased, such weapons were used to suddenly attack. Often attacks were made by hiding in corners or blind areas, so that the guards would not even get a clue. But there was an even more strange and shameful custom in this jail. Even after hearing about it, Billy could not believe that this could happen. Here often the prisoners did not attack their enemies lethally, but deliberately attacked their backs or buttocks with a knife, so that they would not kill them but shame them. The purpose of such attacks was not to kill but to insult them. Such wounds, which left more mental scars than physical ones, and became a means of hurting the dignity of a prisoner. Time passed slowly. Days passed, then weeks passed, and before we knew it, 1.5 years had passed. And the cat was still in the same jail. He was locked up in a strange country with a strange language and strange faces. Only one thing kept going on in his mind: how to escape from here. During these days, he came to know about a special place inside the jail, Bekiroti Psychiatric Hospital. It was a kind of mental institution which came in the category between jail and mental asylum. Those who were considered mentally unstable or those who showed that they were mentally ill were sent here. According to Turkish law, if a prisoner is proved to be mentally ill, then he is transferred to a hospital where security is less strict than normal jails. Billy had heard from other prisoners that it is easier to escape from Bekiroti because there is not much surveillance there, and neither are such dangerous criminals kept there. From here, Billy started making his new plan. He wanted to prove himself to be mentally ill so that he could be transferred there and he could get a right chance to escape from there. But Billy knew that just escaping from the hospital would not be enough. The real challenge was to get out of the Turkish border, because until he leaves Turkey, he will not be free. Thinking this, he remembered his old friend Patrick, whom he befriended when he had left college. Patrick often came to Istanbul to meet Billy, and now he was the only person Billy could trust even today. Patrick's entry at the right time gave a new twist to the story. When Billy shared his escape plan with him, Patrick decided to support him without wasting a moment. In that Istanbul prison where it seemed as if ears had grown on every wall, Billy told Patrick his entire plan with full confidence because he knew that the guards did not understand English. His plan was prepared in 3 steps. First, Billy had to prove himself mentally ill so that he could be taken out of jail and transferred to a psychiatric hospital. Second, Patrick had to be ready outside with a fake ID, documents, and a car, so that at the right time Billy could be taken out from there and escaped. Third, both of them together had to somehow cross the Turkish border and reach Greece, from where the cat could be taken out safely. However, there was a weak link in this plan. If any of these steps failed, the cat's punishment could be even more terrible because now he could also be accused of trying to escape. Now, the cat started as part of the work. He had to convince the jail psychiatrist that he was mentally ill, and for that, he had to look completely mad. In the next few days, the cat did such things that even the real mad person would be left behind. Sometimes he would start shouting loudly without any reason. Sometimes he would burst into laughter on seeing a guard, and sometimes he would sit alone and talk to the walls. But the cat also knew that if he overacted too much, the doctors might suspect that all this was a drama. Therefore, he maintained a balance in every acting. He looked so mad that the doctors would get confused, but not so much that someone would consider it a direct drama. After a few days, his name was presented before the psychiatric board. A panel of 3 doctors was sitting in front of him, and the cat gave the most impressive performance of his life there. As soon as the doctor started writing something, Billy would immediately scream, "What are you writing? Don't write to me. Everything is a lie." Then suddenly he would get up and start running here and there in the room. Sometimes he would pull his hair. Sometimes he would talk to himself. In every action, it seemed as if he was completely mentally imbalanced. Billy's acting avatar was completely successful. The 3 doctors of the board decided together. This prisoner should be transferred to a mental hospital, for now for observation. This punishment was not permanent, but what Billy wanted was now in his hands. A new chance to escape. As soon as Billy reached inside the psychiatric jail, he felt real fear for the first time. Till now his focus was only on the escape plan. But he had never thought about how the place he was being sent to would be from inside. And now when he reached there, he understood that this place was actually full of madness. The condition of the prisoners was beyond description. Some people were just screaming without any reason. Someone was standing with his eyes fixed on the ceiling, as if he was looking at another world. Some just kept walking here and there, without any reason or direction. The cat then understood that the people here were not just mentally ill. They were criminals too. Dangerous criminals, murderers, rapists, and many others whose mental condition had made them even more unpredictable. One of these people was the one who kept following the cat all the time. Everywhere he would say just one thing he would repeat. Cigarette, cigarette, that man looked absolutely insane. He would hover around the cat everywhere. The cat kept ignoring him, but he did not move an inch. It was as if he had become a shadow. Then there was another inmate who thought himself as a judge. He would act like he was in a court. He would make a prisoner stand in front of him and shout loudly, "You are accused. You are guilty. You should be punished." The rest of the prisoners would also get fully involved in that drama. Some would pretend to cry. Some would fall on the ground and apologize. It seemed as if it was not a prison, but a theater of mad people. There was a big pillar in the middle of the room, and many prisoners would keep moving around that pillar in circles without any purpose. No talk, no answer, just keep moving as if the mind is stuck in that loop. They were all living in a world created by their own minds. Billy was standing in that room and watching all this, and with every passing moment, he felt that he had made a big mistake. He was scared for the first time because of his own plan, but there was a relief hidden in that fear too. At least it seemed easier to escape from here. The walls of this hospital, like prison, were high, but not straight, but uneven and uneven. Billy thought that if he got the right opportunity, he could climb up. Security was also very less. There were very few guards because this place was actually a mental hospital, which was later converted into a prison. Now, he was just waiting for his friend Patrick. Patrick's responsibility was to get a fake ID and some fake documents prepared for Billy so that he could cross the Turkish border. Patrick had brought a lot of money from America. He was going to get this work done with this money. But to get such things done, he did not have to go to simple people. He had to look undercover. He had to meet those people who used to make fake documents. They knew that Patrick had money, and this became the root of the danger. Many weeks passed, and then one day, Billy got a letter from his father in the jail. But that letter took the most horrific turn in Billy's life. It was written in it that Patrick is no more in this world. He was found dead in his hotel room in Istanbul. A knife was stabbed in his chest. Actually, the people from whom Patrick had gone to get fake documents made got greedy after seeing the money. Instead of helping Billy, they killed Patrick and looted all the money. Billy was stunned. He got angry at himself, felt ashamed, and most of all felt guilty. If I had not done smuggling, if I was not in jail, if I had not asked for help from Patrick, then today he would have been alive. He felt that the beatings in jail, arrest, and even the mental asylum were not as painful as the news of the death of his closest friend. He started feeling that everything was ruined because of him. His family was drowned in sorrow. His most trusted friend was killed, and now he himself was trapped in a circle of madness from which there was no way out. He started thinking, I wish I too become mad. I wish I could forget all this and just go to some other world. And thinking this, he did the same thing that the other mad prisoners were doing. He started moving around that pillar, just like a mad person without any purpose. He felt that now he had no strength left to fight. His mind was completely broken. Now he had no hope of escaping. About a month passed like this. Then his psychiatric observation was completed. Once again, he was taken to the doctors. But this time, Billy did not pretend to be mad. He was calm and spoke his mind very frankly. The doctors wrote in the report, "This man is mentally stable," and it was decided that he should be sent back to the same old jail. Now, Billy made a promise to himself. I will quietly serve the rest of my sentence. Now no one else will have to suffer because of me. His friend was dead. The family had already suffered a lot. Now only those 2 years were left, and the cat had decided that now he just had to count the days, weeks, months. Only 2 months were left for his release. Every day, he would cross out a date in the calendar on the wall of his cell, and now only 54 days were left. On this day, the American Council came to meet him in the prison of St. Petersburg. The cat was hopeful that maybe now he would get to hear some good news. Maybe the American government had done something or some way had been found to release him soon. But as soon as he saw the face of the council, his heart sank. There was neither peace nor smile nor relief on that face. There was only a strange silence and tension. The cat understood at that very moment. Something is very wrong. Maybe something has happened at home. Maybe one of his parents has fallen ill or some big accident has happened. The counsel, he sat in front of him and remained silent for a few seconds. Then he said in a very low tone, "Cat, your sentence has been changed." Cat's body felt a jolt. His face turned pale. "What do you mean?" he asked in a trembling voice. The counsel took a deep breath and told him that the earlier sentence for hash possession has now been changed to a case of drug smuggling, and this decision has come from the Turkish Supreme Court. Cat could not believe it. "But I had kept a little hash for myself. How can this be smuggling?" But in response, there was only regret on the counsel's face, as if he was saying that nothing can be done now. He said, "We tried as much as we could. Your lawyer also tried very hard, but the court's decision cannot be changed now. The new sentence is at least 30 years, and maybe for the whole life." Cat did not say anything for a few moments. His whole body started trembling. Tears flowed from his eyes, and his lips dried up. His heartbeat became so fast that he could hear his heartbeats. Just a few days ago, he was thinking of himself flying in the free air, and now suddenly the next 30 years of his life were going to be spent in a Turkish prison. He remained sitting there. He was neither able to cry nor shout. Only one thought was going on in his mind. Now, either I die or run away from here. After a few weeks, the written decision of the Turkish Supreme Court reached the prison, in which it was clearly written that Billy Hayes is sentenced to 30 years under drug smuggling. Till now it seemed like a rumor, but now it had become a truth with the government seal. And for the cat, this meant only one thing: the end of life. After this, another decision was given. The cat would be immediately transferred to another prison, and that place was in Raleigh Island, an isolated island which was completely converted into a prison, just like America's famous Alcatraz, where there was only sea all around. Neither could anyone go out nor come in. The interesting thing about Raleigh jail was that there were no high walls or electric fences, because the biggest obstacle to a prisoner's escape was the sea. Even if someone wanted to escape by swimming, the cold, stormy, and far-spread water would swallow him. Now, talking about the inside of this jail, it was a semi-open facility. The prisoners could roam around the open island during the day. They were put to work, like in fields, factories, or cleaning. There was a canning factory in the middle of this island where fruits and vegetables were packed in cans. Every prisoner was assigned a job. Someone was washing, someone was cutting, someone was canning. When the cat reached his jail, his first thought was that at least now he can breathe in the open air. And then he noticed one more thing. Every week a boat used to come which brought food items to the island, and when it returned it was empty. But now his eyes were fixed somewhere else, on those small wooden boats that came to the island every week with the big ships. Every time the big supply boats came with fruits, vegetables, and other goods, they were followed by small dinghy boats, light open wooden boats whose job was only to take the goods to the shore. The cat observed them carefully for many days. How the guards keep an eye on every movement, when the boats dock, when the goods are unloaded, and in how much time those boats return. He was recording every detail in his mind, every movement, every timing, every weak moment. And then only one thought started going around in his mind again and again. If there's a chance to escape from anywhere, then perhaps through these boats. But then slowly his hopes started breaking. Every time during unloading, the security was so tight that even going near the boat seemed impossible. The guards would stand quietly on the shore, keeping an eye on every prisoner. As soon as the goods were unloaded, the boats would immediately go back. No chance, no deal, and no rift. And then came October 2nd, 1975. The mood of the weather had changed since the evening of that day. Thick black clouds had covered the sky. The waves of the sea had become stronger than ever, and the wind was becoming more stormy every moment. Billy saw for the first time that the boats were not going back. Rather, they had dropped their anchors on the shore and were standing quietly tied in a corner. He understood that the weather had become so bad that perhaps the sailors had decided not to take any risk. This was the first and perhaps the last window of freedom. A spark burst inside him. Tonight is the only chance. Either I run away or I remove this thought from my mind forever. Billy was now focused on only one thing. I will run away from here tonight or never. He knew that this plan was based on that moment where a delay of 1 second or a wrong movement could directly lead him to death or the rest of his life behind bars for 30 years. Even though the prison on that island did not have high walls, there were different arrangements for security. Watchtowers were built all around from where the guards kept a constant watch. Many old buildings were converted into barracks and guard rooms. A big building was converted into a factory, where canning machines and other necessary items were kept. The rest of the buildings were made into dormitories, where 30 to 40 prisoners lived in each room. It was like a housing complex, and not like a typical prison. Every night, there was a roll call by the guards. They would call out the name of every prisoner, count them to see if anyone was missing. After that, the lockdown would begin, meaning everyone had to stay in their beds and was not allowed to go out till morning. But that night, the cat's breath was thinking something else. He kept lying on his bed, kept changing sides, until he was completely sure that the guards had gone and the atmosphere was calm. Then he got up and put his hand under the bed and took out something wrapped in a cloth. Hidden in that cloth was a small knife which he had stolen from the factory a few weeks ago. He had wrapped it in a cloth and hidden it under his mattress. Now he was fully prepared. Slowly he got down from the bed and went out the window of the room. The window was not closed at all. As mentioned earlier, this jail looked less like a proper prison and more like a labor camp. As soon as he came out, Billy went straight to the place where the big garbage bins were kept near the factory. The peels of fruits and vegetables were thrown there. He hid near those bins. From there, he started watching the movements of the guards. He had already learned the patrol routine of the guards at night. He knew when and where the spotlights rotate from the watchtower, at what angle they are turned. and as soon as he saw the path clear, he quickly moved toward the rocks that went to the shore. From there, he crawled to the sand and started moving towards the sea. This was the most dangerous part of his entire plan. If the spotlights fell on him at this time, the game could have ended there. The cat kept crawling on the sand with all his might, kept trying to reach the water. As soon as he reached the water, the cold shook him to his core. He had expected the cold, but he had not expected it to be this intense. But fear, cold, and adrenaline all kept reminding him of one thing: run away now or never. He swam towards a small wooden boat that was tied to the big boat. Somehow, he pulled himself out of the water and reached the deck and lay there breathing heavily. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it would come out of his chest. His whole body was shivering due to the cold, but the fear was even worse. He got up and slowly took out his knife, the same one that he had stolen from the factory, and started cutting the rope of the boat. But as he was cutting the rope, suddenly there was a sound of a window opening above. The cat's hand stopped. He immediately bent down and hid in that small canoe. It became completely round like a ball, and a window opened from above. He was the owner of the same big boat to which this small boat was tied. If he had looked down, the cat would have come straight into his sight. The cat was completely frozen. He had even held his breath. Even the slightest movement could have led to his capture. The man just leaned out the window, spat in the sea, and then went inside. Billy remained there for a few more seconds, completely calm. When he was sure that there was no danger now, he started working again. He took out a knife and started cutting the rope slowly. Finally, the rope broke, and the small boat separated from the big boat. Now the cat's boat started floating slowly with the waves. He immediately picked up the oars and started rowing with all his might. He kept taking the boat into the depths of the sea. He just kept going, kept going. After some time, a strange feeling shook him. He had really come very far from the island. For the first time in 5 years, the cat felt free. But this happiness did not last long. Now a new problem was in front of him. He was lost in the middle of the sea. He had no idea which way led to the shore. According to the maps he had seen in prison, Marley Island was near Bursa Province. The cat guessed that he should go toward the south. He decided the direction and started rowing in that direction. Cold, fatigue, and fear were breaking him down, but his passion and the adrenaline running in his body were pushing him forward. The cat said clearly to himself, "Either I will reach the shore or I will die here in this sea." He did not lose courage and continued to row, without stopping, without getting tired, alone in that vast sea, with only the support of hope. Many hours passed, but the cat did not stop. He just kept looking ahead. He just kept walking, and finally, in the first light of the morning, he saw some hazy land somewhere far away, a shore. That sight seemed to be in his heart. He decided to go in that direction and started rowing. Cold, tiredness, and fear were breaking him down, but his passion and the adrenaline running through his body were pushing him forward. The cat told himself clearly, "Either I will reach the shore or I will die here in this ocean." He did not lose courage and continued to row, without stopping, without getting tired, alone in that vast ocean, with only hope in his hands. Many hours passed, but the cat did not stop. He just kept looking ahead. He just kept walking, and finally, in the first light of the morning, he saw a hazy land somewhere far away, a shore. That sight ran through his heart like electricity. Hope was no longer just a thought. It was in front of him now. The cat rowed harder, until his boat hit the sand on the shore. He got off the boat, and when his feet touched the sand, for the first time he felt himself truly free. The cat felt that moment to his heart's content. After 5 years, he was proud of himself that he escaped from prison alone, crossed the sea, and was now standing on land. But along with his victory, he was also fully aware of the truth. He could not stay here for long. His absence would have definitely been caught during the morning count, meaning that the prison administration would have known about his escape by now. Now every second was precious. He had to get away from there as quickly as possible. The area where his boat had landed was a part of Bursa Province, exactly the same as he had seen on the map. To know for sure, Billy asked the local people there, and they clearly said, "Yes, it is Bursa." Billy knew the Turkish language well, so he did not have any problem in talking to people. Then he took a taxi which took him straight to central Bursa. From there, he caught a local bus going to Istanbul, and after a journey of many hours, he finally reached Istanbul. As soon as he reached Istanbul, he went straight to a Hilton hotel, and there was a special reason for this. He had an Afghan friend in jail who now worked in the same hotel. While in jail, Billy had once asked him, "If I ever manage to escape from here, will you help me?" That friend had agreed without thinking. Billy had trusted that promise. He was hoping that perhaps this friend would hide him for a few weeks or at least provide initial help. But when he asked about that friend at the hotel reception, he got the reply that he had gone back to Afghanistan a long time ago. Billy's all hopes were shattered in one go. The one person he trusted the most was no longer there. Billy was tired, broken, and all alone again. Now, once again, he was feeling helpless. He rented a room in the same hotel and fell into a coma-like sleep for a few hours. When he woke up, he went straight to the reception and ordered some maps from there. Now it was time to think of the next step. His next target was Greece, the country adjacent to Turkey. Billy knew one thing very well. The relations between Turkey and Greece have never been good. So if he somehow reached Greece and was caught there, it was very likely that the Greek government would not return him to Turkey. The cat's next target was now very clear. He had to cross the border between Turkey and Greece. The nearest border to Istanbul was in Idrine province, and a long and wide river flowed through it, Marsa River. This river was the natural border between the two countries, Turkey on this side and Greece on the other side. The cat had to do only one thing, to cross this river. He had reached a deserted area near Idrine, at a short distance from the border, where the flow of the river was clearly visible. He knew that soldiers patrolled the Turkish border, but he also knew that strict surveillance on the entire border was not possible, because this area was spread for miles. It is impossible for any country to keep surveillance on every inch, and there were some places where there was no wall, no fence, just an open field and a flowing river. The cat carefully observed the movement of the soldiers from a distance. Every few minutes, 1 or 2 guards were seen coming and going, but most of the time there was silence. As soon as he saw that the area in front was empty for a few minutes, he slowly started crawling forward, sticking to the ground. The area where the soldiers were moving was a little higher, and the cat was on the lower ground, so he remained completely crouched. He kept moving slowly, hiding every movement with the help of bushes and grass. Whenever he heard the footsteps of the guards, he would stop there, sometimes hiding behind a bush, sometimes hiding behind a bump in the soil. After a while, he reached a dip where the ground was further down, like a dry ditch or an old pit. Now he just had to climb that slope so that he could see the river clearly from the height, and then, seeing the opportunity, he could get into the river. But just as the cat was about to climb to that height, he suddenly heard someone's footsteps, very close. Without wasting time, he immediately bent down, completely still like a stone. 2 border guards were passing right above him, so close that if they had looked down, he would have been caught straight away. The cat had not seen them before, because he was walking in a deep ravine-like path, and the guards were on the rocky track above him. Imagine if he had not noticed them at the last second, and had not bent down, he would have been caught. The cat held his breath there. He just prayed that they did not see him. Just like luck had favored him the night before the boat accident. And this time, too, luck favored him. The guards passed by without noticing anything. No sound, no doubt. When the cat was sure that the way was clear, he slowly started coming out of the pit and moved forward rapidly, bending in the other direction. There were some trees in front. He went inside them without stopping. After some time, he heard the sound of water from somewhere, the slow but clear echo of the flowing river. Without wasting any time, he started running in that direction, and at a short distance, the wide stream of Marissa River was in front of him. The cat did not stop even for a moment. He ran to the bank of the river and jumped straight into the water. Now there was only one fear, that the Turkish guards might have seen him, or he might be shot from a height. But now there was no way to retreat, either freedom or death. The cat started swimming with all his might against the waves, amid fear but with courage. After a few minutes of tremendous effort, He reached the shore on the other side. Now he was on land. But the question was still alive. Was this really Greece? According to the maps he had seen in prison, the Greek border started as soon as he crossed the river. But because he had never seen this area with his own eyes, he was not able to be completely sure. Fear was still with him because even if he was in Greece, the border guards could be anywhere, and what would be their reaction? This was a big question. The cat now started moving forward cautiously, alert to every sound on the unknown paths between the trees. Fatigue, fear, and nervousness were clearly visible on his face. It was as if he was walking in a dark forest with the help of hope. He passed by a small hut, but his senses and eyes were so tired that he could not even see that hut. Actually, that hut was not an ordinary place. It was a post of Greek border guards. Suddenly a soldier came out. He saw the cat and was shocked. Without wasting any time, he picked up his rifle and pointed it straight at the cat. The cat immediately raised both his hands in the air, but the guard was still shouting. He was constantly asking something. The cat was not able to understand anything. He had no idea what the guard was saying, and then he realized that this language was not Turkish. A light smile came on his face, because now he was sure that he was not in Turkey. The cat understood that he was in Greece. He started laughing with both his hands raised, and then sat down on the ground on his knees. There was no fear in his eyes now. There was only one thing there, the glow of true freedom. In a short while more guards also reached there. Everyone was staring at him. Some were scared. Some were surprised because they could not understand why this man was laughing. But the cat did not care now. He was now sure that he was saved. He was really free. However, the soldiers of Greece were not so easy. They suspected that Billy was a Turkish spy or had some military intelligence. So they took him into custody and interrogated him for 2 weeks. As mentioned earlier, relations between Turkey and Greece have been tense for a long time. Border disputes and political conflicts have been going on between the two countries for many years. Therefore, the Greek army was not going to believe anything blindly. But when they were convinced that Billy was not on any mission and did not have any confidential information, they contacted American officials. After this, he was sent to Frankfurt in Germany, where American officers interrogated him once again. And a few days later, on October 24th, 1975, Billy was allowed to return to America. When he reached New York Airport, a crowd had already gathered there. The astonishing story of his escape from jail had spread all over the world by now. Media channels, journalists, and many reporters were waiting for him there. Everybody wanted to hear Billy Hedges' story, and at the forefront were his own people, his family, his father who embraced him as if he had been given life again. And these pictures that you are seeing are true. All these are real pictures of that moment. The story of the cat started spreading like wildfire across America. Every newspaper, every news channel covered this story, and within a few days of his return, the cat started giving interviews. People thought that he would be in shock. He would be broken from inside, but the exact opposite happened. He started telling his story openly in front of everyone without hiding anything. And seeing this increasing attention, the cat made a big announcement in his very first TV interview. He will write a book on his entire story. In 1987, the name of that book was Midnight Express, and the very next year in 1988, a film was also released on the same name. The film created a stir. The story was at the peak of its popularity, and everyone wanted to see it on the big screen. But the film had badly changed reality. The real escape story, which had an island, a boat, and the sea, was shown in the film as that the cat killed a guard, wore his clothes, and got out of jail in the same disguise. That is, the real truth was removed and a completely new story was created. Only one thing was shown correctly in the film, how Billy was caught with drugs at the airport and was put in Istanbul jail. But after that, the entire story was changed. And the most serious thing was that the film showed Turkey and its people in a very negative light. Every Turkish character, be a jail guard, a judge, a lawyer, or a prisoner, was shown as cruel and ruthless. When this film became a hit in America, it created a diplomatic crisis between America and Turkey. Billy himself was not happy with this. He has said many times that he met many good people in Turkey. Some even showed humanity to him in jail. But the director of the film ignored all those aspects and showed Turkey as a completely cruel country. Believe me, the impact of this film was so strong that even Turkey's tourism industry was affected for years. But Billy later apologized for this many times. He kept saying in interviews that he regretted that the film showed a wrong image of Turkey. In 2007, 30 years after the release of the film, Billy was invited by the Turkish police to come to Istanbul. His friends and lawyer warned him that it could be risky. He could even be arrested. But Billy really wanted to express his regret from the heart, and he went to Istanbul. This time his presence also made headlines in the Turkish media. A press conference was held, and there Billy openly apologized to Turkey and its people. He said, "I love this country. The people here are good, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart for that wrong image." After that day, the tension created over the film ended completely. Everyone forgave Billy. There was no ill feeling left, and today Billy is alive and is 77 years old. If you found this case shocking, then definitely give a like. What do you think? Do let us know in the comments below and subscribe to Bedtime Historian for such true and shocking crime stories.